Welcome to Last Rites, the horror scene podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Brown. Along with me always is my co-host,
Ollin.
On today's episode, we've got news, reviews, and some horror comics.
Start off with some news. Since the pandemic is kind of over, maybe, not sure. Hopefully. They're announcing Monsterpalooza is back, which is awesome. So horror conventions are back, at least here in California. Not sure how they're panning out across the Midwest and East Coast, but here they're releasing Monsterpalooza in June. So the dates are going to be from June 3rd to June 5th, and it's going to be down at the Pasadena Convention Center. So if you go on their .com, you should be able to look up ticket prices and order tickets through them. I'm not sure if it's mail-in or pick up at will call, but all the information they have should be on their website at monsterpalooza.com, I think it is.
Very exciting.
Other news, there is a new app out. I'm actually just signed up on it, and I like it a lot. It's called Slasher. And it's a horror app. It's basically like Facebook, but for horror. So anybody and everybody who's into horror, everything genre, music, movie, literature, lifestyle. It's basically what it is. So, and they have it for Android and for iOS. Although right now they had some issues with the iOS, so they have a beta version going on for it, testing out. I have iOS, unfortunately, so I can view everything and talk to people. It's just on posting stuff. I can't actually put pictures out there right now until I join the beta. Once I join the beta, then I guess that takes care of everything. At least that's what the curator emailed me when I talked to him about it. So yeah, check it out, Slasher. It's in the App Store and on the what's the one for Android called?
Play Store.
Play Store. Okay, so App Store, Play Store. Check it out, Slasher. You got any news you want to talk about?
No news. Let's jump in into the topic.
Okay. Well, let me finish out these real quick here. So, Halloween Ends just announced that they are finished shooting, and they have a opening date for 2022 in October. So opening date will be October 14th.
Perfect.
Yeah, I can't wait, especially after watching Halloween Kills. It's been a really good series so far from Blumhouse. And then Scream 6 was just green-lighted for production for this summer. Looks like they're going to be doing up in Canada, from what I read. So I'm kind of curious to see how they continue the story, or if it's going to be a brand new story arc. So we'll see. So far, everything's been in continuity from the first one to the last one. So we'll see what they do with it.
Yes, sir.
And then Chucky, the TV series, season 2 has also been greenlighted for 2022 release. So they, I guess, wrapped up not that long ago. It didn't actually say when they finished wrapping up, but they did say that they're going to be releasing the second season sometime this year, but they gave no official date.
Good to hear. Very excited to check this one out. Chucky's the one that I haven't been able to take a stab at, so to speak. But it's next on the list for sure. Queued up.
Yeah, I like Chucky a lot. He's pretty funny. Out of all the serial killers that have the one-liners or try to be funny in their killings, I think Chucky has the best one-offs, even more so than Freddy.
Yeah, totally a dark comedy for sure.
Yeah. So I watched actually the first season of Chucky, and I thought it was really good. It was kind of weird at first, the way that it was starting out, but once the gears got going into it, it was like a roller coaster. It was pretty cool. I liked it a lot.
Good to hear.
Yeah. And then The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They released that on Netflix, and from what I hear, it did extremely well. It was like the number 3 searched and watched movie on Netflix. And not to spoil anything, but the way it ended, basically, is my question is, are they going to do a sequel to it, or are they going to leave it as is?
Yeah, it was a bit of I can't tell if it was a cliffhanger or not, but it did leave some space for a possible sequel.
Yeah, I think with the way it ended, it could have been open-ended, like, yes, this is the end, or no, maybe we'll come back and pick up from this point. Or like most of the sequels that I've been seeing lately have all been like 5 or 10 years later, and now we're going to pick up, and and it's I don't know if that's just a theme going on in Hollywood right now, where everything that's a sequel or a continuance, they're just like jumping future movies, looking at like the future for 5 years later, and then they give you a little backstory of what the people were doing in that time, thinking that everything's okay and back to normal. But like I said, it's just it's weird to me about like what Hollywood does with those type of things.
Well, I had a few thoughts actually on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. On that note, the franchise has jumped around a lot. Some of the movies, if you go back to the Tobe Hooper ones, the first one and the second one, when you look at them, they're kind of very different movies. The first one was kind of like a low budget movie, and for the second one they had a lot more money, and the feel kind of changed, even with having the same creative team. And then the reboots and the remakes also were very different from each other. So yeah, it leaves that question dangling as to which direction are they going to take next, if they're moving on at all.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they went the same direction that Halloween did, where they kind of retconned everything before the original, like it didn't exist. So, because the one that's on Netflix currently is, it's supposed to be a direct sequel to the original. Basically, the big budget, Texas Chainsaw 2 was not continuity. And same with like how Halloween was, like the actual part 2 that they did, was retconned out of there. So like the 2018 movie came out, and it was a direct sequel to the original 1978. So yeah, it's interesting how they will do that, and that's also another trend that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So it's like, what other movies are they going to do that to? So far, like I said, in the news segment with Scream has been straight continuity. It's one movie after the other, and it's the same characters, and it's the same story that's continuing. As in like their lives did get on, they moved forward, but then this incident happened. The same thing with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like what direction are they going to move into? So that would be nice to see. Hopefully it's a good one. This one kept my attention for the most part.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Although it felt like it went real fast. So it felt like it was a real quick movie. It didn't seem like it was a full movie. Almost felt like I was watching a TV episode.
Right.
But I guess I was so into it. That's what made it feel like that. It went by so fast.
Yeah, apparently they changed directors at some point, and maybe that has to do a little bit with how the pacing sort of changed, and
changed the directors like in mid-movie.
It was early in the production.
Oh, okay.
As I read, it was very early. So to me, it felt like there was a lot of exposition in the first 20 minutes. A lot of explaining this thing and that, and then eventually, when we get to the killings, it was just about the kills.
Yeah.
And that's when it really, like, the pacing became like very fast. And,
yeah, I agree. That's how I think I felt about it too. It's the like in the beginning, I didn't really kind of understand what was going on because they weren't very clear on any backstory. To me, it was like I was supposed to assume I already knew what was going on with these characters and why they were going to Texas. But nothing was really explained until like mid part of the movie, and you're just like, oh, okay. That would have made more sense if they would have explained that in the beginning, because then I would have had a better understanding of, why these people are here.
Yeah, they go to a random ghost town, and I gotta be honest, I didn't get it, mostly because I didn't identify with these characters. And, like, the things that they were trying to do, they were trying to like make like some sort of town for their own, sort of like a commune, or not commune, but like their own like hipster town. But then my question the whole time was like, then why go to Texas to do this? This is the worst place you could. But obviously.
Yeah, I mean, without spoiling it, one of the things that they were against was guns, and Texas is a huge, like, I'm gonna wear a gun on my side no matter what, and you're not gonna tell me anything otherwise.
Yeah.
They're very gun-oriented people in that state.
Absolutely. Texas does have a history. Historically, it's been a place with lots of violent events. If you go back even before Texas was Texas, there's always been some sort of conflict. So it's a little the spirits run hot very much. So people say it's the weather or whatever it is, but it's always like some sort of.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Texas always seems like it's the wild, wild west, no matter what day and age it is.
Yeah, So the theme of one of the themes of the movie was I understand what they were trying to say, and I think it was full of nuance. This dichotomy of the gun culture there, and having this character that's very anti guns for her own reasons, right? But I don't know. It's sort of it did expose some of the hypocrisies of both sides of that controversy. Yeah, some of the characters, like I said, I couldn't really identify with them, and I think I blamed that and the fact that none of the characters I never really cared for. So like the kills, and I'll say one thing about this movie: the kills are amazing. They're really cool. But ultimately, I didn't care for any of these characters. There's one recurring trope that I'm seeing more and more in not only the horror genre, but like almost every genre now, be it sci-fi or even rom-coms. Rom-coms especially will use this character that's like the influencer. And I understand it's very now, right?
Yeah, obviously.
But I don't know. It's wearing thin on me, and the influencer character. I'm getting bored of it, to be honest. Bright side, the cinematography was really good.
Yeah.
The cinematography was really cool shots, really creative shots. Like I said, the kills were really amazing. I don't think it would be a spoiler, the first kill was really, really cool. Where the guy breaks the guy's hand, and then the bone is exposed, and then uses the bone to stab him in the throat.
Yeah, that's when I saw that, I was just like, wow, that's so original. Like,
Yeah.
I never even thought about that, you know. But, you know, with everything has been done already, you've got to come up with some more originality, you know, or at least something more brutal. And it just keeps, with horror movies, you got to be, I guess, more and more brutal,
Yeah.
you know, for it to really, like, stick in your head. Because when you watch it, you're going to remember that. You're not going to forget that, you know. Especially like, or even like and without going into spoilers, you know, in the middle of the movie, there's the kill upstairs. You know, that was, to me, just, it went, I don't want to say it went overboard, but it went to the extreme, you know, with that mallet that he had. And
Oh, right, yeah, that scene. And one gripe I do have about the kills is that they do use a lot of CGI in this one, which is understandable. Seeing the guy, one of the creators, his name is Fede Alvarez. His first movie, the first thing he ever did was this thing called a Panic Attack, which is just about like it's a really short film about some sort of alien invasion. And he did everything. He directed it, and he did all the special effects and everything like that. So he used a lot of CGI for that one. So you can sort of see that influence in Texas Chainsaw that he made.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's interesting, but the thing that made me a horror fan were the classic special effects, the buckets of red paint, and all the effects that make it seem real, but you know it's not real.
Yeah.
And the CGI kind of takes away from that, in my opinion. With that said, it was really well done. It was really well crafted.
Yeah, like all the practical effects.
Yeah, practical effects, that's my jams.
Yeah, I like those too. And I'm sure you can ask any FX artist, that's also their jam too, because all the digital effects takes away from them and their business.
Right. So that one's I really like that.
Yeah. I was just dying to watch it, and I couldn't see it in the theater, so I ended up watching it on Peacock. But I got to see it, so I was really happy with it. All my friends were very disappointed in it. But
Really?
I was just like, I don't know why. I mean, it lived up to all expectations that I wanted for it, and then more. And then now hearing from you that there was an extended cut, now I have to go back and watch the extended cut and see, you know, the differences between what I saw and what was, you know, in the extended cut.
Yeah, I got the DVD, and it comes with both versions, so you can you can pop one disc and you can make the comparisons.
I was really happy with the characters that they had chosen to be in the movie, but my only one gripe would be about Tommy Doyle. I don't know what the actual actor of the original Tommy Doyle looks like now, or even if he's still alive, and maybe that's why they didn't go with him. But they went with like all the original actors from the original movie, at least the majority of them, and brought them all back in. But they didn't do it for him. So that when they kind of do things like that, that's like usually like a gripe for me. I kind of like, it rubs me the wrong way, because it's like you didn't really need this big Hollywood actor, especially with people who are diehard fans of the film series, and you know of Michael Myers himself. It's just I just thought that it's kind of also like a slap in his face. Like if he is still alive and say he wanted to do the movie, but nobody reached out to him and asked him. You know, Kyle Richards, who played Lindsay Wallace in the original, came back for this one.
Yeah, even she. And then she's a child actress, so she hasn't acted in a while, unless you count
Yeah, she's on
Housewife.
she's on that stupid housewife show.
Which I don't count that as acting, but
yeah, I mean that's all reality based, but probably to a script. But yeah, it's just weird. Then Marion Crane, they brought back the original actress that played her, who was the nurse, for Loomis. I really did like how they did the CGI for Loomis. I'm not really a big proponent for CGI on a lot of stuff, but I really enjoyed the take.
Like a deep fake or something?
Yeah. I don't know if it's actually called a deep fake for what they do in here. I think only like on YouTube it's a deep fake.
Okay.
But yeah, it's basically what it is. They have an actor stand in and they do the mocap like around his face so he looks like the original actor. They did that with Tarkin in Rogue One to bring him back in the Star Wars universe.
The score by John Carpenter. I guess he did a couple of remixes, and he's doing kind of like a thing where like each character has like their own theme, so that whenever they come in scene, that's when the score kicks in for each character. So I think that adds really to the atmosphere of the movie. It did feel like a second act to a 3-act type of arc, and picked up immediately after the events of the last one. So
yeah,
it was like a direct continuation. So yeah, I don't know about that. Do you feel like there was too much fan service in this movie?
What do you mean? Explain.
There was a lot of callbacks. Like you say, the character Lindsay, played by is it pronounced Kylie or Kyle? Kyle Richards. Her character was kind of inconsequential a little bit, in my opinion. She was just sort of there, and then she went away, and they never revisited. Like things like that are fan servicey just for the fate.
It was nice to see them. It was nice to see that they were bringing those characters back. Like I said, they were characters from the original. I think the reason they probably brought them in is because yes, they're still in the town, so they wanted to touch base with them, kind of see what they're doing. I do see what you're saying about Kyle Richards, Lindsay Wallace's character. Like she had like basically her 15 minutes in the movie, and that was really it. They paid more attention to the other couple that was in the movie, that was at the bar scene with Tommy and Lindsay,
right,
and nurse Marion, which was also weird to me that all of them were there, but the way they explained it made a lot of sense that they celebrated, this is the anniversary of what happened, and we get together and we celebrate with a couple beers, and look at it as like we're moving forward to next year again. And so the way they explained it, to me, it made a lot of sense, and I enjoyed that. It didn't seem like it was forced. The explanation was pretty clear to me, and I accepted it. So it wasn't like, oh, this is they should have had another reason why they got together, but for that tragedy that happened, it makes a lot of sense for them to want to get together and celebrate. A lot of victims and survivors and stuff like that do things like that, so it made it seem legit. Didn't seem like it was like a forced thing, or fanfare like you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of story in this movie. There's a lot of meat on the bones, right?
Yeah, and the way they explained everything, it wasn't like how Texas Chainsaw Massacre was, where you were kind of left guessing. Like, as soon as things were happening, they were explaining it, like, right there on the spot. So you were kind of in the know right then and there.
Right.
So I like that a lot, too. Opposed to left, guessing, like, what the hell's going on? Like, why are these people here? And Like, what's the importance of them being in this story?
Yeah, no. I love the characters. Were very important. They utilized some of the old characters very well too. Brackett, I think, was very well utilized. He has like a really good story arc.
Yeah. And I liked his story arc too, because it seems very typical that, an ex-cop would become, basically a security guard.
Yeah.
Especially like in retirement, what else does he want to do instead of, sitting at home? So he wants to still feel important.
Right. And sort of, like I said, it does feel like a very middle part of the story. And usually the middle part of the story is where it slows down and kind of sets things up for the grand finale, right?
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of storytelling.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And that's what a lot of people like. They're either in it for the jump scare or for the blood, or for the killing. And then I don't know. It's, to me, when I watch something, I like to be completely engulfed in it and like to really just be taken away. I like that. Just to get a certain like feel from it. Some people just watch, horror movies just for the kill scenes, or maybe like the psychologicalness of it. But I like that in all movies.
One of the scenes that one thing I didn't notice is in the very first scene, when one of the kids that is trick or treating, he's walking by and you can see Michael Myers standing by a bush, like way in the background. And then when he turns around, he's not there anymore. And I had to go back and rewind and I was like, wait a minute. And that was one of those moments that I was like, oh wow, that was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. It suddenly makes everything click, right?
Yeah. To me, it's like very Hitchcock, because Hitchcock did a lot of psychological things like that. So.
Yeah, it gives the movie a replay value.
Yeah.
You can revisit it and get something new each time.
Yeah. I mean, I feel I've done that with Halloween, but I feel like I can still watch the original Halloween over and over and get something new out of it every time I watch it. So
overall, I like the movie. You gotta watch it for what it is, and I always try to be positive. I try not to be one of those toxic fans that are always deconstructing things. I'll have my criticisms later, but first and foremost, I try to enjoy it.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, I like everything, there might be things about certain movies that I don't like, but for the overall purpose, I'm pretty sure I'll like it, and I won't talk down on it or talk crap about it. There might be key points or things that happened in the movie, or maybe a specific actor didn't do it for me. Those are, not the movie's fault. Or it could have been story, maybe the story wasn't strong. Like, they had good actors, but the story wasn't strong.
Yeah.
There's always something that you can find, but overall you have to look at the movie for what it is. So did you have a chance to watch Scream, the fifth one?
Absolutely. That's another one I really liked.
Yeah.
That's another one I really enjoyed watching. I was never a big fan of the Scream franchise.
No?
I was a teenager when the first one came out. The first one came out in '96, I believe. And I always saw them as like teen movies with like some sort of dark comedy in it, but with the slasher overarching like theme.
See, I was complete opposite of that. Like, I was an adult. I was 18 when it came out. But when I watched it, like, it was basically at the end of all the really crappy 80s horror, B-movie horror, just if you had a camera and you wanted to make a horror movie, you know, they would put it out there with a big budget, or you know, they would put it, you know, as a B film, and you know, you would see it in your local rental, you know, store. So it was basically at the tail end of all that when this movie, not this movie, but when the original Scream came out, and I was so excited for it because when I saw it, it was like a breath of fresh air to me. It was, I feel, in my personal opinion, that the Scream franchise, even though the movies were kind of not as good as the first one, each sequel, but they were good in their own right. But the first one was that movie that gave a breath of fresh air to the horror genre. I think it revamped the horror genre and got it going again for people to really be like, you know what, I'm making a crappy movie and I need to make a better movie. Because after this movie came out, yes, there were copycat movies of the sort, but there were also really good movies that came out right after it, that just between writing and the actors that they had for it, and then the type of characters that they were creating, and the kill scenes, you know, like we talked earlier, every kill scene seems like it's getting better and better, or they're going more extreme. That's what it was like for me when I saw the original Scream. I was just like, man, talk about a reboot, you know, to the horror genre. That's what Scream to me was. That's how I felt about Scream.
Yeah, looking back, the Scream franchise, but the first Scream movie was very innovative for the times. It was, I think, one of the first movies in the horror genre that didn't take itself too seriously. It was a little bit meta in that sense that it would reference itself, and
it was almost fourth wall, but not quite.
Yeah, right, yeah. And going forward, the sequels would reference the previous ones in one way or another, and when they introduced the concept of the stab movies, that's when it got really, really meta and really self-reflective. And no other slasher type movie had ever done anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I liked how they brought in the whole stab series, you know, a play on itself, you know, because that's what it seems like America does, is that something tragic happens, and what do? They capitalize on it by making something, you know, whether it's a documentary or a movie or a TV show.
Yeah, if it bleeds, it leads, right?
Exactly. So that's how I feel like, you know, that was very, very smart on Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson to recognize that. And
another aspect of the Scream movies, they're basically whodunits, right? And
yeah, pretty much.
You, the audience member, you're the detective, and the movie is not cryptic at all. It's a puzzle that you can put together in your head, and the movie will give you all the pieces.
Yeah.
It's never gonna lead you astray, or there's red herrings, but they're very.
What about Chucky? You haven't seen the first season of Chucky? I
haven't seen the TV show, but I follow that franchise. It's not my favorite franchise. I always liked the very first one. It got a little bit wacky later on for me. It became more of a comedy than a scary movie.
Yeah, but I think a lot of those, minus like Halloween, because I haven't seen it that turn into like a comedy, or even like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I guess not even Friday the 13th, but like the Nightmare on Elm Streets did.
Right. Yeah. Those became dark comedies.
It was more. Yeah. It was more. You know, how can my one-liner really like affect what's going on in the scene. The same thing too with Chucky. It's just basically what he was about to say, or what he was going to say, or what he did say.
Yeah, he would do like really wacky things, like
yeah, I mean, because it's a killer doll, so how serious really can you take it? So if you can't really pull one over the audience that way, then you're gonna have to do the next best thing is make them laugh.
Yeah, no, but dolls are scary. Like have you ever seen like dolls from like the Victorian era? Those things are kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's like in the last podcast we talked about that whole that Geico commercial with the guy who bought the house and went upstairs and they turned on the lights and there was just a shit ton of like Victorian dolls and stuff in the attic, and then the guy looks at the Geico and says, nope. Sometimes that shit kind of like really weirds people out, and weirds them out in a really bad way.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things like clowns as well. Like it's something that shouldn't scare you, but it does for some reason.
Yeah, that's always been weird to me, like how people have that type of phobia, like with clowns. But it's to each is their own. There's certain things that people find scary, and if clowns is it, then that sucks.
Yeah.
Like I would hate to be in that person's shoes. 'Cause there's a lot of clowns like you.
Things like that don't help, huh?
Yeah. That's probably like the start of it.
Yeah, totally.
So, I guess for my review of Chucky season 1, since you haven't seen it,
yeah, tell us about it.
Like I said, I thought it was really good. It was weird at first. I would actually say more awkward. It was very awkward. So it was very now, today's age of living, with the main character. So it's this young kid who is an artist, and he's referenced to be gay through pretty much the entire season, and I don't want to give away any spoilers about him and his sexuality, but it is heavily referenced, like in the beginning of the episodes. About him, and that's really a hard topic for him to take, and so what happens is he's just at a yard sale and he comes across the Chucky doll, which to them is a vintage Good Guys doll. So, and he thought, being an artist, he's creating this sculpture out of dolls. Speaking of dolls, like he's creating his own kind of sculpture, but he's using all parts of all dolls to make it like a life-size person, but using dolls as his medium. Yeah, so he wanted to use Chucky's head as the main head for the doll sculpture that he was doing. So that was the whole reason behind him acquiring the Chucky doll. It just appeared in this yard sale, and he just happened to come by and just thought he would buy it. And there was a whole back and forth between him and the owner of the toys that she was selling. And the whole thing was about them being like vintage or retro, and so he was basically like arguing with her about it being one way, and she's telling him it's another way, and so but he ended up acquiring it. I think the joke was, the difference between vintage and retro was $10, because she was asking for 20 and then all he had was 10. So that's how he acquired Chucky. And then from that point on, like I said, it was just I think it was his acting is what really was awkward. He used a lot of weird facial expressions to me, and I was just kind of like, I don't really understand like what his method of acting is about, like why he's making like all these weird faces. I mean, it almost looks like he had like really bad gas or something at one point, and just the faces that he was making throughout like his lines and stuff like that. But I don't know if he was just really just trying to portray like this tortured soul or what, only being 14 years old. But it's
a kid.
Yeah, he's a kid. Yeah, he's a young kid. So he's actually in junior high. too much to spoil anything. But after like the first 2 episodes, it's you started seeing the progression of how the story arc was heading. You weren't, to me, I wasn't like really knowing like what was the end game of the season until the end of the season happened, and then I was just like kind of blown away. I was like, wow, that was pretty cool, because it really kind of kept you guessing to what was happening.
Okay. But it was slow pace, or
in the beginning, like the first 2 episodes were slow paced, but after that, it was like I said, everything started falling in place. Everything was rolling like one thing after the other. So it's the progression of what they're trying to accomplish for the season picked up at the 3rd episode, and then moved forward all the way up to episode 8, which was the last episode for the season.
So is it more of a thriller, or is there a sizable body count in this one? Or
I wouldn't say sizable body count, but there's a pretty good body count in it.
Okay.
But yeah, there's more. It's more of a body count towards the end of the season than it is in the beginning. So, but in the beginning, it's like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, that type of thing. But it's
ramps up as it goes on.
Yeah. It's basically, like I said, I don't want to say it's filler, but it's can't even think of the word for it. Makes sense on they're dominoes. It's each kill is like the next led into the next thing. One right after the other.
As long as it's a good progression.
Yeah.
Like plot progression. I don't like it when things happen and it's just some sort of mistake just to move the story along. When like a character does something stupid just to keep the story going. I don't know.
So yeah, that was my take on Chucky season 1. I can't wait to see season 2. I think they left off in a really good place to have a second season. This one did leave off on a cliffhanger, and it was like at the end of it too. They basically like Chucky was sitting there like in a chair and like drinking something, and he looks up and he's like, "Oh, you're there." Kind of like the whole Deadpool thing,
yeah,
like the fourth wall. So then like he also starts explaining, like he gives you the body count, runs down like how many people were killed during this season, and then also gives you the rundown of the cliffhanger, so that way you have to figure out because they didn't know if they were going to do a second season or not from what I was told. And what I read, and then the next thing I know, I was reading that season 2 is wrapping up and it's going to be released this year, and I was like, I guess they are doing a second season.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't see how well it did, or even how well it was received, because by the time I was watching it, it was already done, obviously. So with season 2 coming out this year, so I guess, but yeah, with the cliffhanger that they had at the end of it, it's not even so much like a cliffhanger. It was just, I guess, just the way it ended. It could be, construed as a cliffhanger, or just a unwrapped storyline, that they need to tie up, the loose ends in the next season. So, and I don't even know anything else past that, whether it's going to be the same cast, same characters, or if it's moving to a new area, or any of that sort. So we'll see what happens and how they start season 2, or even like how they bring back Chucky.
Okay. Well, sounds interesting. I'm definitely gonna check that one out in the following days. And
Yeah, I just want to make sure that like I watch like maybe 1 or 2 episodes a night, just that way I can soak it in and reflect back on those episodes and be like, oh, okay, I understand what they're doing, what's happening, and have a better understanding of everything.
As you know, I'm an avid comic book collector, and I have one recommendation today that I bring for everybody. From Boom Studios, a title called "Something is Killing the Children" by author James Tynion III and artist Werther Dell'Edera. James Tynion comes from DC. He did a bunch of Detective Comics. He was on the main Batman title for a while. It did very well. And basically, this comic book is a small town in Wisconsin called Archer's Peak is seeing a series of missing children and mysterious deaths. There's a monster on the loose and is killing children, and only the children can see it, which means that the adults and the police struggle to figure out exactly what's going on. Enter character Jessica Slaughter, who's a young woman, member of a mysterious organization of monster hunters. And they're tasked with hunting down and eliminating these monsters.
And they're adults, and they can see the monsters?
It gets revealed later on that they have a technique that allows them to see the monsters that other adults are not able to. They have some sort of mysterious origin that's a supernatural type thing.
Oh, okay.
It goes into the supernatural, and the monsters also come from like a supernatural realm. And yeah, basically, it's just the mystery of where this organization comes from and why are the monsters killing children. It's interesting because I don't think killing children in horror is off limits necessarily. I see it a little bit reminiscent of the final girl trope, because just like children, they represent the death of innocence and vulnerability, and so some people might cringe at seeing children being killed, and the comic book is definitely not for kids. It gets very graphic, it gets very bloody, the kills are really gruesome, and but it's a really, really good read.
Is this a series?
It's a series. So far they're on chapter, I believe they're on like the 3rd story arc.
Okay.
It's been published since 2019, so it's been going on for a while.
I was just going to ask how old is this series?
Yeah, not very old, but it's been going on for a little while now.
Yeah, it's rare to hear like that are horror comics with original stories and stuff like that aren't of the actual horror movies, because like Halloween at one point had its own comic series. I think Friday the 13th did.
Yeah.
But I never really like saw an original besides, and same thing with Predator. Predator was a movie, so they had a comic series.
Yeah.
But I think they had a comic series before the movie with Dark Horse.
Yeah. Dark Horse did publish some Predator stuff. I think the Alien franchise also had some comic books.
Yeah, but I think the Alien franchise had the comic books after the movies.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
As to where like Predator didn't, and then it was like I think around the same time that they were being released, they had the movie come out. But like I was saying, it's just really rare for you to hear that horror has, like comics, but it's super cool. And this one sounds really, really cool and intriguing. Like I'm already kind of hooked on to see like how these people, what their technique is to see these monsters, and how many of them are there, and how did the group come to existence.
Yeah, I recommend everybody go check this one out. I believe that it's been auctioned, and hopefully a really good studio picks it up and makes like a really good movie or a TV series. It's really ripe for translation into the screen. It would come very, very naturally, I think.
That's awesome. Do you have any other suggestions for our horror comics, or is this the only one that's pretty just...
Well, this is the one that I wanted to focus on. There is one more. It's called The Silver Coin. It's more like it's like an anthology series, and it's also this one is also very new. It's only on like its 9th installment, but this one it's more like in the vein of The Crypt Keeper, or like where it's like self-contained stories.
Yeah.
But they're all tied by this one thing called the Silver Coin, which is like a mysterious, also supernatural type artifact that brings certain supernatural powers to whoever possesses it. So the first one, no spoilers, but the first story is about a musician who's lost his mojo. He's a guitar player, and his band is done with him. He's hit like this creative wall, and he comes across the silver coin and puts it in his pocket, not thinking nothing about it. And then suddenly he needed a pick for his guitar, and he reaches into his pocket. He doesn't have a pick, so he just uses the coin, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, he's a master musician again. But it comes with consequences, right?
Yeah, like everything.
Another story that I really dug was, so that one was I believe was in the 60s. Then when you fast forward to the 80s, this little kid finds the coin, and he's a very avid player of fighting games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, things like that. And when he uses that coin, all of a sudden he's unbeatable and becomes a sensation. But again, it comes with very dire consequences, delving into the supernatural and demonic things start to happen. So that's another series that's really good, The Silver Coin. That one is produced by Image.
Oh, that's cool, Image. I like Image. So how does that work with him and the coin in the video games? Like, if he puts the coin in the video game machine, how does he get that coin back?
He doesn't. Like I said, these are very standalone stories.
So that story arc is basically his one day of playing that video game.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
The coin moves on to another possessor or another story.
Interesting. Huh.
It always ends in a way that the possessor either loses it or the coin just sort of moves on.
That is interesting. Huh. The Silver Coin. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, that one is pretty cool too. Yeah, comic books are a really good place for horror, and
yeah, because you can get away with a lot.
Oh yeah.
Because your pages are what your mind is, capable of.
Exactly.
Opposed to like how we were talking about practical, FX. That's only as good as the person's imagination and how well the makeup is going to look. As for like, pen on paper, you can do some crazy shit.
Totally. The only budget you have is your own imagination.
So.
Yeah, especially with all these superhero movies coming out, all based on comic books, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There has been some movies adapted from comic books that I didn't know were comic books. before I watched the movie, one that comes to mind is From Hell. I had no idea that was a comic book until I researched it at some point. I really liked the movie. Starring Johnny Depp and Heather Graham. Was from 2001. But before that, there was a serialized comic that ran from 89 to 98, also titled From Hell. It ran for 11 issues. A really good narrative and amazing artwork, all black and white, which adds to the moodiness of the comic book. This one was written by Alan Moore, and the art was by Eddie Campbell.
Oh wow, Alan Moore, huh?
Yeah, crazy guy. If you know this name, you know how insane it gets.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, I'm really interested in that now. I totally did not know that they took that from a comic. Like, I just thought it was an actual like movie from the pages that the Ripper like wrote to the press.
Yeah, it's very loosely based, I guess, on the lore of Jack the Ripper.
That's awesome. I wonder how hard is it to come across those the comics itself.
The single issues are a little bit hard to get, simply because they're old and there wasn't a very long print run. But the collected series is pretty attainable right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's something I have to look into. So I'm really big on like Jack the Ripper and like his lore. Like anytime I see something on YouTube, it's like an instant watch. Like, I don't care what I was like on YouTube to watch. It was like, oh, here's something about Jack the Ripper and maybe possibly his true identity. So I'm like, click.
Yeah, a lot of the events that happened with that particular historical figure really set off a lot of very important historical events of the 19th century.
Look out for those comics. Maybe go through the interwebs and see if I can find myself a book.
Yeah, you can probably find them digitally as well.
I tried that with the whole digital comics, and the novelty of it I thought was kind of cool at first, but I'm really an old school cat. Like,
yeah.
I like to have something tangible in my hands.
Yeah, the actual physical thing is always...
Yeah, I love just having something like a book in my hand where I can actually physically read it. I tried doing that with PDFs, and I'm a huge like D&D guy also, and I tried that with the PDFs on there, and yeah, it's cool to have, but when it comes back down to it, like, I'd rather have the actual book in my hand so I can thumb through those pages and, you know, find something real quick, as to where I have to like figure out where the page is at and scroll and scroll and scroll. Like, you know, I'll find it a lot quicker, you know, going through those pages than I would scrolling down with the mouse. One of our coworkers had brought up to me about some horror video games, new horror anthology of games, which I watched some of the trailers and they looked really good.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It's come a long way from Resident Evil and Silent Hill. So
that's my jams right there.
Yeah, those can't beat the classics. This episode of the podcast Last Rites is brought to you by our unofficial sponsor. We're hoping one day that we can actually officially get sponsored by them, but we're talking to you, Liquid Death. So Liquid Death is a mountain spring water. They use cans instead of bottles. So it's Death to Plastic is one of their slogans and catchphrases.
Awesome.
And the other one is Murder Your Thirst. So here's to you, Liquid Death. Thank you very much for helping us out, quenching our, murdering our thirst during these episodes. So here's to you guys.
Yeah.
That's right. Liquid Death. Death to Plastic. Murder your thirst. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Horror Scene Podcast Last Rites. If you guys haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening to it on YouTube, please subscribe, smash that like button, and then hit the bell for all future notifications.
You can always find us at our website, www.thehorrorscene.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. And for any comments, questions, or future show ideas, you can hit us up at our email, thehorrorscene@gmail.com.
Remember to stay creepy, keep it spooky, from our grave to yours. These have been your last rites.